In the first age of Arda, when the race of men left the eastern lands of Hildorian, they spread throughout Middle-earth, with some of those migrating into the south, later known as the Haradrim. Said to be tall and dark-skinned, with black hair and black eyes, their tribes settled the lands of Near Harad, adapting to life in these harsh desert climates. Further south, the people of Far Harad were described as half-trolls with black skin, though, with so little known about this faraway realm, it is uncertain whether they were actually men who shared blood with trolls, or were simply large and similar to half-trolls in their ferocity. In the Second Age, when the kingdom of Numenor began expanding east, colonizing the lands of Middle-earth and beyond, they established settlements along the southern coast, the greatest of which became known as the city of Umbar. At first, relations were cordial with the natives of Harad, learning from each other and engaging in trade. But as the years went on, the Numenorians grew possessive, creating lordships and demanding tribute and subjugation from the Haradrim. As the corruption spread from their island to the colonies, the Numenorians became cruel and arrogant, with some coming to worship the Dark Lord Morgoth, offering human sacrifices for his glory. However, when their ruler Ar-Pharazôn sailed his armada west to wage war against the Valar, the creator of the world, Eru, intervened, causing the island of Numenor to collapse into the sea. While most died in this great tragedy, some of their people remained faithful to Eru and were spared, sailing ships to Middle-earth, where they founded the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor. However, in the south, many Numenorian colonies continued on with the same corrupt, cruel leaders that existed before the doom of their homeland. These men became known as the Black Numenorians and were largely hostile towards their northern kinsmen throughout the centuries. Now ruling as independent lords, the Black Numenorians sought to establish a new power base, with two of their nobles, known as Herumor and Fuinur, rising to prominence among the Haradrim. But they suffered a major setback in the year 933 of the Third Age, when King Eärnil I of Gondor launched a surprise attack against Umbar, capturing the city and expanding the territory of his kingdom. In the year 1015, the Black Numenorians tried to win back their city by rallying the men of Harad and laying siege. But Gondor had the power of their mighty navy and had no problem continuing to supply the city. The ineffective siege went on for 35 years until at last Gondor sent an army south to defeat and disperse their enemy. Yet they were not able to hold the city forever, as Gondor eventually declined in power, largely due to a devastating civil war which erupted in the year 1432. The war went on for several years, but in 1437, King Eldacar was driven from the capital and his throne taken by Castamir the usurper. The realm then suffered under his cruel leadership for a decade, until 1447, when Eldacar returned with an army, slaying his enemy. Yet the sons of Castamir would not submit, and so retreated first to Pelargir, and then to Umbar, where they established their own independent lordship. The descendants of Castamir never abandoned their hatred for Gondor, and supported pirate raids against them, becoming known as the Corsairs of Umbar. In the year 1540, the Haradrim, supported by their Corsair allies, invaded Gondor, and were able to kill their king Aldemir. But they were eventually defeated when the fallen ruler's son and heir, Vinyarion, led an army against them in 1551. In 1944, the Haradrim once again went to war with Gondor, allying with the Wainriders of Rhûn and the Variags of Khand to attack from both the north and south. And while the Wainriders won a great victory in the north, killing King Ondaher and his sons, the Haradrim were defeated in the south, allowing the men of Gondor to finish off the remaining Easterlings. As the Dark Lord Sauron regained his power and spread his influence throughout the Third Age, his emissaries convinced the Haradrim to continue their efforts against Gondor, marching north in the year 2885. Unfortunately for the Southrons, the Horse Lords of Rohan were allies of Gondor and came to their defense, defeating the invaders. Although they suffered a number of defeats throughout the years, by the end of the Third Age, the Haradrim were once again rallied together in great numbers, wielding weapons of iron and scimitars that glittered like stars, as well as spiked shields of yellow and black. Having tamed and trained the mighty Mumakil for war, they often rode atop the great beasts, firing arrows and throwing spears towards their enemies. Yet they also rode horses into battle, and had many infantry soldiers as well. The men of Harad were then sent along with orc forces to take the city of Osgiliath in 3018, then joining the main force of the Dark Lord at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. During this great confrontation, a fearsome chieftain of the Haradrim, with a black serpent as his standard, was slain in single combat by King Theoden of Rohan. Though the armies of the Dark Lord were vast and powerful, they ultimately could not stand against Gondor and its allies. When the One Ring of Power was destroyed and Sauron finally defeated, his armies surrendered or fled. Many of the men of Harad who remained in the north chose to submit to King Elisar of the reunited kingdom, while others further south remained hostile to Gondor. Love audiobooks? Then be sure to check out Audible, where they have the world's largest collection available. Simply sign up through the link in the description box below and get 2 free audiobooks to start out. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Lord Terrazak's Zoran, Master of Terror, Nesha the Flamebearer, Jake the Red Fury, and Nate Strong the Liberator. If you would like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.